Okay, we're going to open up the Water Sewer Commissioners meeting, February 24th, 2021, and it is 7:15. President is Colin Hare, Keith Waniaz, Bob Sullivan, Bob Josie. All right, Bob, you want to give us the water and sewer reports?
Did you guys decide if you were doing the meeting minutes, or? Oh, you got that, all right.
We could do the, you weren't here at the last meeting, Bob, so.
Huh?
You weren't here at the last meeting, so we could do the, well, we could still do the August and October meeting minutes,
Oh, all right, yeah.
if you want to just abstain from those, but,
All right, you want to do,
yeah, we'll get them out of the way.
all right.
So,
And we'll do the meeting, minutes of the meeting for August 26th, October 8th, and January 15th.
14th. January 14th.
14.
January 14th.
January 14th.
Second. I just got one comment on
Which,
the January 14th.
Yep.
yeah,
Under the risk and resiliency evaluation discussion, she put, I estimated it was 25,000. I think I said 75,000,
okay.
unless I misspoke at the meeting.
So 70, so amend 25 to 75,
Correct.
and then company came back at 15, is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right, so motion to approve the minutes as presented with the amendment that Bob had requested.
Second.
All in favor? I'm abstaining.
All right, so we'll start with the January water monthly report. We pumped a total of 5,800,300 gallons for an average of 187,107 per day. Used 430.25 gallons of KOH. Used 268.25 gallons of batched chlorine solution. Did the monthly bacteria monitoring was done and all came back good. System repairs, he installed a new probe at the primary, pH probe at the primary station, and we got the electric heat working in the garage. The monthly maintenance, storage tank inspections, and load test on Glenn's generator. Meters replaced, we had 2. Final reads were 6. No new connections or meter installations. We attended the PFAS training and roundtable. Did the ethics training, replaced the transducer on the filter number 1 at the treatment plant, and we chipped all the brush at the stations and had snow removal at several storms. Any questions?
How did the, not about this particular report, but what brought my attention was the PFAS. Wasn't there some sampling that was voluntary that you had done?
I submitted for some free sampling because they cost about $700 a sample. And we'll have to do basically 4 of the raw samples and 2 treated. So I submitted for it, and I was in a meeting that the lady that's in charge of it all, and I asked her, and she said that she was waiting to discuss it with Matt to inform him of what's involved and what happens if we get hits. So that was the last I heard. I tried getting hold of Matt, and then I forgot to ask him when I seen him, but I haven't heard anything back yet, but they're supposed to send me all the sample kits whenever they approve it.
Okay.
But that can turn into a nightmare, so. But we are required to sample for it regardless by October 1st. But as of, I want to say the end of June, they stopped the free sampling, so I'll keep pushing them to move forward with it. And I know the last thing she said was that she's just waiting to talk to Matt about it. Not that I feel that should have any bearing on it, because Matt's not really in charge of.
I was going to say that. That was sort
I
of-
would think it would more go through the commissioners, but
I mean, whatever.
it is whatever, yeah, whatever they're,
One or two, that doesn't really bother me. I mean, you would think it would come to us, but however, if it's something, if it's free, it's got to go through the administrator, that's, you know.
I've done other free programs through them, and it didn't have to go through. I think she just said that she wanted to have the discussion with the town administrator to let him know what's involved, and if it comes back with high levels, what's required. So,
Yeah, I'd like to know that.
Yes.
well, I can kind of give you an idea what's, what's involved.
Yeah.
The sampling goes up tremendously. In some of the conversations in some of these roundtables that we've been in, people were saying it's $60,000 to $80,000 a year you have to budget for the sampling. And then they might require you to put in emergency temporary treatment, which is a big tank on a trailer or something that they come in and mount. And you run it through that until you can get your treatment system designed. And ballpark for the treatment system's probably about $5 million. And then it's a matter of if you put treatment at each station, if each one requires it, or do we try to pipe them all to one location and just put one treatment plant?
So this is going to be mandatory as of October for every community?
October 1st. Well, depends on the size of the community. For our size, it's October 1st. Other systems have already had to sample, and that's why there's so much information as to what happens.
Yeah.
But it's quick, there's a bunch of notifications that end up having to go out. You have to do a public education, which just gets the public all worked up and crazy. And the levels that they're looking for are 20 parts per trillion combined over 6 different elements. So there's 6 different compounds that they test for a bunch, but there's 6 that they add up. And if they reach 20 parts per million, or per trillion,
Trillion.
yeah, 20 parts per trillion.
Wow.
And if you read the instructions on how you have to sample, because there's so many things that can affect the sampling, you'd think you have to sample naked, because you can't wear anything that has any stain resistance in it, any waterproofing in it, no Gore-Tex, no latex, or no Tyvek, even the Teflon tape on your sampling ports, you got to be concerned about. Can't wear any clothes that you use fabric softener on. There's a huge list of stuff that you have to, precautions on when you sample.
It's going to be a little bit ridiculous.
And then what I saw in some samples was it's all over the place, and there's no consistency in the results.
In the towns that have done it?
Yeah. And then they're concerned with the consistency between labs. You know, some towns were saying that they're splitting samples between 3 different labs because they don't trust any of them, and the numbers are coming back all over the place.
Yeah, because even the person handling the sample after you've released it could,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And then I don't know that the technology is there to sample accurately to
Trillion.
that small of a detection. And then they're saying that it was 30%. They have a 30% acceptable range, so if it's 20, you've got 6 parts per trillion either way that it could go and still be accurate. So if you're measuring to 20, it could really be 26, or it could be 17, or it could be 13, 14. So 14 to 26, and, you know, if you were 14, you'd be fine. If you were 19, you'd be fine, but at 20, you're got to spend a lot of money.
And all the other communities, have they had to do implemented all the,
There's a lot of towns that have already put treatment in, and but some of the towns like Hudson, anything near an Air Force base, anywhere they use the triple F foam firefighting spray. I think Hudson was up like 700 parts per trillion, so they were way over. I know there was a couple others that were up in the thousands, so those, they kind of put emergency orders in place right away and had to put things in place, and some of them provided bottled water until they could get something in place. Which, you know, my argument on the bottled water was, didn't make a lot of sense to me that the water department provide bottled water, because if we buy the bottled water, you know, where do they think that money's coming from? The ratepayers. Just let the people go buy the bottled water that they want, and, you know, you got the little old lady on fixed income that's going to get her rates increased because we got to buy bottled water and hand it out to everyone, and she uses a gallon a month. And, you know, these other people are using water like crazy, you know? So,
And I think the bottled water, they don't go through the testing that the municipal water supplies have to go through. You know, look at some of the,
yeah, we brought that up, and, you know, I questioned that in one of the meetings, and they said that they had a list on DEP's website, they have a list of all the bottled water companies that did do the testing. But my question is how was the testing done? Did they sample right from the source, or did they sample after a bottle that's been, you know, water that's been sitting in a bottle for however long, they let them sit on the shelves, and the little liner that seals the cap, you know, it's probably got some type of Teflon or something in there to make that seal. So, you know.
Most of the bottled water is taken out of rivers and wells, isn't it? Just purified?
Yeah.
Went through a purifier?
I know there's one
it'll be
right.
interesting to see how they,
Yeah.
hopefully ours is fine, not to worry about it.
That's like years ago when they had that recall on Polar Springs.
When they
Had too many parts per million.
overdosed the chlorine.
Chlorine in it.
Yeah.
Did they?
They switched from the gallon jugs to the little bottles.
Yeah.
They forgot to change their dosage.
Also.
So they dosed the small bottles, what was supposed to be in the, like, gallon jugs,
Actually, that was quite a while ago. It was probably
It was.
15 years ago.
maybe even
I
more.
think it was when Tony was here, we had a thing up on the bulletin board down there with the recall of Polar Springs because of the chlorine.
Yeah, I want to say it was closer to 20 years now.
Yeah. Okay, it's been a while.
But they said they did test it, but again,
Yeah.
you know, at what point? All right, so now the sewer report. We processed 6.363 million gallons for an average of 205,000 gallons per day. We had 2.84 inches of rain for the month. We had 104,400 gallons go to Synagro. We wasted 99,434 gallons for an average of 3,280 gallons a day. Used 715 gallons of alum. We didn't use any sodium hydroxide because we're cleaning that tank out and trying to fix some of the piping going from the tank. The electricity we used, 458,000 watts. The river average was 160 cubic feet per second. And for the comments, we completed and passed the first quarter toxicity sampling. And the annual analysis for the waste sludge to Synagro has been performed, and we had an alum delivery. And then to update you guys a little more on the sewer side, EPA did reach out to request more data, so it sounds like they're moving forward with the NIPD's permit renewal. That's probably 10 years due now.
They're asking for what? More reports?
All the
More
data.
data?
Yeah, they asked for 5 to 10 years worth of data again. And I've gone through it 2 or 3 times now in the last
Didn't we just give that to them not too long ago?
several times, yeah. So they asked for it all again, but that just lets me know that they're trying to move forward with the permit. So, my guess is that the new permits will have a PFAS testing in it. Typically, the way the wastewater permits work are they put out testing, but it's not, no limit or anything. They just put out testing and report only. That's so they can establish kind of a baseline where everything stands and come up with a limit somewhere in the future. Yeah, so just so you guys
What
are,
is that permit? What's the cost associated with that?
for the
Is there a
For the
cost
NIPD's
associated?
permit? No, we won't, they'll just issue us a draft, we'll have a chance to review it. We could try and fight it and probably get nowhere. My guess is, in this round, there'll be a aluminum limit, which I had discussed with you guys before about, some of the plans that I had to try to work towards solving that issue before it becomes the issue. Because I know I talked to a guy that does pilot studies, and he said that with the SBR plant and changing the filters that we have, the fabric, right, we've passed the useful life of those filters, so they need to be replaced anyway, the filter fabric, not the filters themselves. So when I replace them, I want to go with the 5-micron filters instead of the 10, and then we would do a pilot study to see which chemical works better than the alum to get rid of the phosphorus, because they hit you with the phosphorus limits probably 2003, somewhere around there. So you had to add a bunch of aluminum to get rid of the phosphorus. Now they come back and hit you with a aluminum limit because everybody's adding too much aluminum to get rid of the phosphorus. So I anticipate a aluminum limit. Like I said, they'll implement PFAS sampling. I can't think of anything else. I often look through any of the other draft permits that come out, just to see what they're putting in them, because typically they'll be consistent. And it's usually in a period of time, they have specific contaminants they're looking for, and they focus on to try to reduce, so. So I review the other ones just to try to anticipate what will likely be in ours. Like I said, aluminum was one of the bigger ones, and just in conversations I've had.
How do you get rid of the aluminum? Is it through the filters or through a chemical?
The best way to get rid of aluminum is not to put the aluminum in the first place, but
Yeah.
that's the problem. We're adding aluminum to get rid of phosphorus. So
The filters you were talking would be reducing the phosphorus.
would reduce the phosphorus further,
Oh, so we won't have
It
to
also-
use as much.
Lessens the amount.
and it catches the aluminum.
That eliminates or reduces the amount of aluminum that we're putting in.
Right, that gets to the river. The only other problem, which I would anticipate shortly after, would be that we reduce, if we just do it where we remove, catch the aluminum before it goes out to the river, the problem with that is it ends up in the sludge, and sooner or later, they'll put a limit on the sludge, what the levels of aluminum going out in the sludge can be. So,
How does the aluminum get in there? Is it from aluminum cans being rinsed out, or?
from us.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just from the,
We add alum.
alum is
An aluminum salt.
Okay,
It's mostly aluminum base.
okay, all right.
But they have some other stuffs, polyaluminum chloride, it still has an aluminum, but you can use 1/4 of what you use for alum. But the price is 4 times as much. And it's got a shorter shelf life, so you got to use it quicker, so we won't be able to store as much as we do with the alum. We'll have to get more deliveries.
See how that turns out.
Yep. All right, that's all I had on that. So an update on the economic development? Is that we're on, or anyone have any other questions on the sewer? Or?
I think we pretty well answered that.
Just the generator?
I haven't got anywhere. I sent out that email to you guys, and you kind of agreed to move forward, but, Colin kind of got in my head with as long as it's a reputable company and everything else, so I tried looking into that company, and I can't really find much on them. So it's ripping something out and sending it to Chicago and not knowing one way or the other, and I've talked to a few other mechanics as to if it's a a cam bearing that went instead of a crank bearing, that your block will probably be junk. So if we rip this thing out, spend all kinds of money shipping it to them in Chicago, they rip it down and tell us the block's no good, then we're kind of out, and we still got to pay them a certain amount of money for going through it. I've talked to LaFleur, I haven't got much of a response from them, but for the last year, they've been kind of unresponsive for most of the stuff we've been trying to get them to do. I was going to have them come in and try to spec out what size we actually need, because in my opinion, that thing is way oversized. I mean, I've said it before that, you know, when we had that Enernoc program going on, where originally the Enernoc program said, all right, you got a 400 kW generator, we're going to give you X amount of dollars because you have 400 kW that you can take off the grid if we go into a brownout or, you know, high demand period. So just to be on standby, they were paying us like, I don't know, $700 or $800 a quarter just to be in that program. But then they started saying, well, we need to monitor how much electricity you guys use so we'll know how much you take off of the load of the grid. And then they said, oh, well, we're only going to pay you for the amount you use. So that reduced the payments they were giving us. But while we were doing that, you know, I tried getting as much draw as I could through the system, and the highest I think I got it to was like 57 kW or something like that. So we got a 400 kW generator at 57 kW, you're not ever putting that thing under a load. You know, and that was me turning everything I could on. I was running the air conditioners and the heaters all at the same time, just trying to draw as much as I could. And we have VFDs on everything, so, you know, nothing has that, you know, when you throw a switch and you go across the board, that high draw that you have, the high current draw that you have under a motor that you just have an on-off switch. So a VFD just ramps it up slowly, so you don't get that peak surge of startup draw.
Wasn't all our equipment on that? Slow start?
Yeah, we have VFDs on almost everything.
So what's the, where do we stand, I guess? What's the?
So like I said, I was trying to get LaFleur out to resize it, you know, because potentially, I mean, why would we want to buy another 400 kW generator? I mean, it's massive if we only need a 200 kW. I mean, the cost is going to be a huge difference between the two. So it's just a matter of I got to get either, if LaFleur is not going to be responsive, I got to find another electrical company that'll come out and do it. Just so we can get a better idea of what size generator to spec out. Because it may be a smarter move to just get a new generator than to try to find someone to, you know, we're going to spend thousands of dollars to rip it apart just to see if they can rebuild it, and you're up around 20 grand to rebuild it. And now you're rebuilding an engine that Cummins says they don't supply parts, they don't, you know, they don't do anything with that motor anymore. Because I called Cummins direct, I called Cummins Reman, who they rebuild all the Cummins engines, and they're all saying that they won't touch it.
But they must have a replacement. They have,
That's, everyone I talked to about just replacing that engine.
yeah, but I'm not saying a supplemental, like if they're not servicing this engine anymore, that it's done, then what replaces that engine?
Right, that's what I mean. That's,
Yeah.
I asked them about that, and they said, we don't know what a replacement engine for that would be. We would have to get the engineers involved. So they're all saying that we need to have an engineer spec it out and decide what engine would be a suitable replacement for it.
That would bolt in.
Right.
Basically unbolt, take out, and another.
Yeah, so the problem is they took a small engine and hyped the crap out of it to get as much horsepower out of it as they could. Because if you look up that engine, that same block, most of them are only putting out, you know, 350, 400 horsepower, and this one's putting out 605 horsepower. So they put the biggest injectors and just jammed as much, and they basically took it and tried to hype up a smaller engine to get as much horsepower as they could to stick it in these units, which is probably why they discontinued them, because they're realizing, you know, you're trying to get too much out of a little engine. And it's something that, you know, generators are tough on the engines anyway. It's not like a bus engine or a tractor trailer truck where you're on it, then you're off of it. So it's got like idle, low load, at times, you're only heavy load, you know, when you're on the pedal hard going up a hill or something, but generators are a constant heavy load. So, you know, when they make a block for a generator or a marine engine, they're always a heavier nickel content. They're just built to withstand the harsher environment. But now you take something that was designed to put out smaller horsepower and you jam a bunch of horsepower out of it, you're just stressing that engine too much, is what I think.
And do we ever kick back into the grid?
No.
Never. So why do we even bother with having a generator?
Well, we need the generator in case.
Big enough, I mean, big enough to,
Yeah, we don't, I mean, even in that program wasn't for the generator to supply to the grid. The program was to take our load off of the grid.
oh, I see.
So we would just start the generator up and take the load from our treatment plant, so the grid didn't have to supply it to us.
All right.
What about just getting a second opinion on the engine itself?
Yeah, I've asked a couple people, and I haven't got anyone to come in and actually look at it yet.
No.
They said they were going to come out, and they still haven't.
I talked to one diesel mechanic, and he was kind of interested. He said, oh, maybe I can take a look at it,
If he wants to come down, take a look at it, have him come down.
just to see, because I said it was,
Yeah, the oil's not in it right now, so it's easy to drop the pan and have him look at it again.
he said it's fairly easy to check the bearings and stuff like that. But,
I know I was going to do it, I just haven't had time, but,
so, maybe I'll just ask him if he wants to come up.
yeah, if he wants to come take a look at it.
You know somebody to do that?
Yeah, he said he would come take a look if he wanted to.
I've had a couple people tell me they'll come look at it, but they haven't yet, so.
Yeah. All right.
Did you ever check into what it would cost to buy a new generator that would meet our demands and not be so far over? I mean, if you're saying the most you ever got was 57 kW, and this puts out how many?
400.
400. I mean, it
Yeah.
seems to me to make sense on trying to find a cost-effective
Smaller
generator.
replacement, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I mean, something's got to happen on that.
Oh, yeah.
So-
Trust me, I stress every snowstorm, every rainstorm, every time it's icy.
Look what happened in Texas there.
Hmm.
All the power outages and see that on the news, I'm like, poof. But why don't we just I'll see if we can get that guy to come up, take a look at it, and then if he says the motor's junk, well, I think you just get an engineer on it and get something designed and communicate and get a specs on it and
Yep.
the costs and,
Which, while we brought that up,
Do we need an electrical engineer or something to figure out what we need? Who do we,
well, it's two different things. We get
one of our engineers do that, or?
we get one of the electricians, the electrical contractors that can size generators. You know, they look at everything throughout the plant and they say, all right, here's all your loads, and, you know, things are designed to come on at different times so you don't get the spikes, but they review all that, and then they've got formulas that they run through to give you a calculation on what you're supposed to have for a generator.
And we can't find anybody that does that?
Well, I asked LaFleur to come in, and they still haven't come in to do it.
do they do that?
Do we have another vendor?
They say they do. We've always used LaFleur.
Yeah, no, I know.
I had Cat Mechanical come in to work at Booster Station one time, but I don't know if he can size generators or not.
Well, I think whoever designs it would be able to size any engineering firm would.
The problem with that is if you, like Beta designed it,
Yeah.
they way oversize, which is the same problem you're going to get into when you look at an engineering firm, because they just say, oh, you know, go with the biggest thing that you
Yeah.
can possibly use.
Yeah, that's what we don't need.
Yeah, we don't want that, but
Right,
make sure
so-
we're clear to them on that.
But like Stantec, or FST at the time, they spec'd the one for Booster, and they said I needed a 65 kW generator. So 65 kW is, it's 135 amps, 480 volts. I put everything I possibly could on when we rented that generator to do the test on that station, and I think we only got up to 25 amps. And that was running all 3 pumps or both pumps and the heat, the fan. I put everything on in the station I could, trying to get the load up, and I think the highest I got was like 25 amps. And they're specing a generator for 135 amps.
How do they come up with that formulas?
That's what I mean. I don't know what they're using for, I mean, even a, that's, 135 amps at 25, that's, 5 times the size you need to run. I mean, I can understand, it was my understanding that when you size a generator, you go 185%. So if you have 100 amps, you need 185, or say 100 kW, you need 185 kW generator. That's what I out, but, neither of these instances that I see, they're like 4 or 5 times the size,
Right, yeah.
from what I can gather. And I don't know how they're coming up with those numbers, but
So if you called Cummins Generator Division, could they give you, they must have vendors that they work with to install their products?
I think they sell everything through distributors. So that would be any of the generator companies that we've called. They usually want your engineers to design,
Yeah.
to spec the size, and then you just give them, I need 480 volt, this many amps, or this many watts.
Well, there's one down at the parking garage in Framingham. That one looks to me just, if the box is the same, it's probably as big as the one we have at the plant. So, just looking at the box, I walked around it the other day and stuff.
But I just hate to spec something for 400 kW that we don't.
Right, no, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
We have to, something has to get.
That could be what they had on the shop floor and said, let's give it to Douglas.
Yeah.
You know?
I know when I first called, they said, when I gave them the model number and everything, they said, oh, now that's discontinued, we don't do anything with that. Last time we made that engine was like 1989 or something like that. I'm like, how's it that? You must have the wrong model, because this one says it was, that this treatment plant was built in 2005.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they gave you an old generator. I'm like, no, the manufacturer date on it says 05, 06,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, it was either May of 06 or June of 05. So they're like, oh, well, I don't know. The only guy that we have we have one guy, and he's ready to retire, that works on that engine, and that's the only one. And he says you'll have a hard time finding anyone that'll even work on that engine, because none of the old Cummins guys are around. And I'm like, well, 2005 or 2006 isn't that old.
No.
But they were surprised it was that year, because they say that model engine they discontinued long ago.
Do you have the right number? Did you double check the?
I sent them the picture of it, of the
Okay.
the nameplate. Yeah, just to make sure I wasn't giving them the wrong number or something. I said, I sent them the actual picture of the data plate off the engine.
Yeah. Only because one of my thought processes having a number associated with that was because if we need to transfer money at special town meeting.
Right, that's what I was going to say. I need any articles I need by next Friday.
Yes, that's what, so then that's why I was wondering if Bob and Eric was going to be here, if we needed to do anything for the MassWorks grant, that I knew about the generator situation, so I was trying to make sure we.
And that's one of the questions I had on my list here for you guys is, like I said, I estimated the risk and resiliency study at about 75, and they came in at 15. So that line item is in engineering. I don't know if you guys want to try to move forward and say, let's call Stantec and say, all right, let's move forward with the design portion, get the surveying or whatever done, because we should have enough money in the difference of that project to at least get the design rolling.
Oh, well, okay, I'm switching to, so you're talking about going up Davis?
No,
No, where are you talking?
the design for the 1 million.
Oh, okay, all right, coming down.
So we had the preliminary estimate on the engineering work for the first half of the engineering. It was 107,000. So the 107,000 was multiple line items, but in order to get to the point that we need for the MassWorks grant, I think we estimated it at like, between 35 and 50,000 to get that, to get it rolling enough to get us enough information to be ready for the MassWorks. If we wait until the Maytown meeting, we won't have time to get the engineering done. So I don't know if you guys want me to kind of figure that money, we overshot on that one line item, and use the difference towards that project to get moving forward.
We have to go through and see if there was, I know we were over a little bit on one of the projects, so we could use a little to offset that.
That was capital, not engineering, but
Yeah. but
I know what you're saying.
Still, do we have the ability to move it around inside the expenses?
The bucket.
Yeah.
So just to make sure we're still positive on that, and then everything else is looking okay. Which I think it is, I mean, it looked like it.
I was gonna say, even with that, it was, I think, probably 10,000,
Yeah,
somewhere around
yeah,
10,000.
it wasn't a big number, but just to.
Right, but 10,000 even, that's 25, so we still got 50 to work with. So I think we're still within that range of that extra money to,
As long as this generator, if we need the engineering to get something rolling for that generator, so I think it's gonna be, we'll just way up though. I obviously wanna get that economic development front going, but I think Bob and Eric would be the one that we could see where it is in that and which way that's going. Because there was a lot, last time we discussed that, there was like 4 different options, I guess, and, wasn't it?
it's 3.
3 different.
They still won't give us an answer as to who it is.
Yeah,
But from what I hear,
yeah.
the one that they think it is the one that just wants to do it. No tips, no,
So just, put it in.
they just want it in and done.
So that means that MassWorks would have to come into play. We don't want the MassWorks to come into play.
To be honest with you, the read that I was getting wasn't either of those. That's what everybody's interpreting it as, but
Yeah.
my interpretation of the way it was said was, they'll just, here's the money, do it. I mean, you're talking a 1 million square foot building, it's not,
Yeah,
there's some money tied up in that.
oh, yeah.
I think the money for the infrastructure is probably the least of their worries. Not that they want to spend money that they don't have to, but I don't think that's a game changer for them. But I think in a good faith effort, the engineering, I mean, MassWorks isn't going to cover the engineering anyway.
No.
So that's going to have to be paid for one way or another.
So, I mean, I'm in favor of that, to do that. I know you guys, how you guys feel with that.
Yeah.
But I also want to make sure that the generator's a big, important.
Right, so I have the 2 things we're juggling right now on time crunches are the engineering and the generator. So do you want me to put a placeholder in for a transfer from retained earnings or whatever for the generator? And that way, it's earmarked for an article on the warrant. I just don't have a dollar amount yet, but at
Yes.
least if I get the placeholder in. Or do you want me to put one in for the engineering? It's one way or the other, but like I said, if we wait until town meeting, I don't think we have enough time for the engineering.
Yeah, because then you have to wait. Attorney General has to approve everything, and I remember I was
It
reading.
has to be approved at town meeting before I can spend the money.
Spelled that out, the timeline on that. I think it was a matter of Bob. Had spelled that out.
Yeah, Bob spelled out the timeline. And there was just, I want to say it was like June 4th is the deadline for the MassWorks. So if you go through Maytown meeting and then you've got to get it approved through Attorney General, even at Maytown meeting, the 30 days isn't enough time to get the engineering done, because they got to do the survey, which is the big part of it.
Well, we could, try to think where you could hit both of those in that one article. With the, and then obviously we don't need it, we just don't spend it.
Right.
So if we
I
come
mean, it's
to the.
It's to expense, it's the expense line item. I don't know how specific Gene will require me to get
Oh, you're talking about the expense line item for the existing, for the engineering.
for both. I mean, well, one is going to be under, the different buckets, which we don't
Right,
really
right.
do at the,
I'm just thinking, and I know you know with that, but I'm thinking that's not, I don't think, I'm not too worried about that. I'm worried about the, making sure we have the money to do, for the generator, which would be a transfer of retained earnings. So I think we probably would want to go a little bit heavier on that for the generator in cases of the costs associated with the engineering gets a little higher than anticipated.
Yep.
So that way then at least we have the money that we can use for the engineering, for that portion of it, but then also the generator coming down the line. No, I don't know what that, I have no idea what that cost is gonna be.
You lost me. So, are you saying where we've got this one line item that we're probably not gonna use all those funds, are you saying just use that for the engineering? And then for the warrant article, for transfer from retained earnings for the generator? Or are you saying do
Yes.
both from retained earnings?
Do one from out of the engineering, and then I'll send with the transfer, at the special town meeting for retained earnings for the generator, but we can still get that ball rolling
With money that's
the
in
money
the-
that's
Right.
currently have.
Do we have to have a figure in for that?
Because of the retained earnings, you can, at special town meeting, the funds are available right after the town meeting.
Right.
So it can be expended, where if it goes to the annual town meeting, you have to go through the whole process, the attorney also approve everything in that. So I guess I'm trying to make sure we get both,
Both of them covered, yeah.
Yeah.
and whatever that process is, but we're off a little bit on one way or the other. Maybe you could talk with Matt or Gene and see which.
So we gotta have an article in for transfer of money for the generator, is what you're saying?
Just transfer retained earnings for.
Retained earnings.
Yes, whatever that would be for the generator and possible engineering, depending on how our budget's looking.
Right.
Closing out.
We need to talk
I'm on the
about
same
that.
page, so I understand what you're saying, yeah.
But it's just a matter of working, make sure, talk with Matt and Gene to make sure we're doing it properly. on that-
Yep.
on that.
When do you get that information, Matt or Jeannie, or?
I'll talk to Jean tomorrow.
Jeannie, okay.
I gotta meet with her tomorrow anyway.
I don't know, I really don't know the cost of the generator, what we're looking at for a number, so it's,
Neither do I yet, that's why I just want to get a placeholder in,
yeah.
and then I'll get the numbers.
Are we looking at, 25,000, we're looking at 100,000? I don't know where that is.
Right.
Well, and it might even come down to that it's easier to crane that one out of there
That's
and put another one on the pad.
Right, yeah.
That's what I was thinking, just because, you spend all this money to put in, have an engineer design what engine can replace that engine, and then 6 months down the road, the generator end goes. Because I've seen the generator ends go more than I've seen the engines go. So
Well, I think that's the only way to go, is a whole new unit, and
put a new unit and see if we can sell the other one on eBay or something. Yeah, maybe somebody's got a generator end that crapped out.
Okay.
One of the preppers will buy it.
Who?
One of the preppers.
Oh, yeah. I know.
They'll hook it up to their old tractor. Put that on a PTO, we'll get that thing spinning.
so you take care of that with Jeannie tomorrow?
Yep. All right, so the economic development. So the best information I have so far is the Blackstone Valley Logistics is a definite go. I guess that's moving forward. They've already gotten through, I forget what some of the terms are for the permitting. What do you have to file
For what?
for when you're permitting a big project there? You file the E&I, ENF?
Oh, for the environmental?
Yeah.
Yeah, environmental impact study, yeah.
So they've already filed that. So that one is there, that's pretty much a done deal. That's moving forward. We just don't know whether it's coming our water or Whitensville water. And like I said, Bob kind of threw a wrench in the other day saying that he was talking to some of the people involved in that project, and because it's multi-town, economic development, that there's a better chance at the MassWorks grant if we move the North Street project and the Gilboa project and the extension over to that project instead of the 1 million square foot building. The 1 million square foot project, it's hinging on one other project that's going through the process right now. If that one moves forward, then this one will move forward. So it's just kind of hinging on that one. That's, once that gets signed, then the rest will move forward all on the same day, and that'll be a go. So Bob was saying, you know, originally the plan was for the 1 million square foot, it was the northeast main replacement on that line, the North Street, and the Gilboa Street, to replace those, and then they have to, you know, the contractor can do the project in between on their property to connect the two. So we got to get the engineering rolling on that portion, but then, like I said, originally that was the design, to have all those projects in that one. And now Bob thinks that it might be a better idea to separate it out and do a Mass Works for this one, then do a separate Mass Works for the Northeast Main for the 1 million square foot. But my concern there is that if you break them out and then the Blackstone Valley Logistics says, you know, we go through the process and Mass Works and whatever, and then Blackstone Valley Logistics says, nah, we're going to go with Whitesville Water. Now what happens, you know, you put it in for a project through Mass Works to say for this project,
Going all the way on, right.
and then you turn around and say, yeah, we're not going to use it for that, can we use it for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna support Mass
It won't
Works.
work, so I'm concerned about putting the Mass Works grant in, splitting it that way, and then not having it covered,
I would worry about.
but
just-
Yeah.
what I said at the last meeting
That we need
was,
to worry about, if we need to, if they want it from that point, it's there, it's only right down the road. Just like Duncan's did.
right, I think that it would be an easier discussion if the paperwork was already signed, because then they could announce who the 1 million square foot building was supposed to be. Then we could get everybody in the room and have a discussion. But until that paperwork's signed, we're not going to have any information. But I think whoever's with the 1 million square foot needs to be in the building. You know, we need to have a meeting with someone from that project, someone from Blackstone Valley, and, you know, either one of you or, you know, me, Matt, Bob, and get everybody together and say, look, here's what needs to be done. What's the best approach here? You know, if the 1 million square foot saying, we just want it done, we don't care how it gets done, we're just going to do it. You know, that's one thing. If they all get together and say, all right, here's the improvements we need, and we're all moving forward, let's put it on paper as to what works best. You know, but we need commitments from people. So you would need Blackstone Valley Logistics to commit to taking water from Douglas. So you need something in writing or whatever saying that, yes, we will commit to moving forward, whether it be if it's a Mass Works grant or not. But then, you know, they probably want the same thing. If we don't get Mass Works, we still want a commitment that you're going to move forward with doing the upgrades. So that's, like I said, I think you need to get everybody in the same room and have that conversation.
What advantage would it be to get water down to Blackstone Logistics? Is it, why do we even want to bother with that when we got our own things to worry about here?
Well, in my opinion, I mean, I'm more for the 1 million square foot. That solves a lot of issues.
We get 20% revenue. We get 20% of that.
The Blackstone Valley Logistics, I'm not sure what the percentage is. I know they were trying to work out percentages a little different than what the actual percentages were based on the square foot that was within each town. Because I believe we're like under 20% on, you know, there's a bunch of different ways they can do it, whether it's property or the structure itself being within the town.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you kind of need to know what it is, and if it's an unrealistic amount of water, why are we going to provide?
Well, no, they're not using a ton of water down there because they're putting a septic in, so it's under 10,000. I think the number they threw out at one of the meetings was more like 7,500, 8,000.
Oh, it's quite a lot.
And then Bob had thrown out that he saw somewhere in there that it was 5,000. So it's not a ton of water for them, but it is revenue, so.
It wouldn't hurt our system by allowing the water, because I didn't want to overburden our system. Now
Right.
we got stop and explore wells and take care of the businesses and industrial development that we need to do in our town.
I mean, I think we're getting to that point, just because with the Water Management Act permit, I mean, it might just be as simple as, not that it's simple, but as simple as going in and requesting additional water for our Water Management Act
Yeah.
permit. Because we have plenty of capacity. But we're reaching that capacity and just looking at all the projects going on. I mean, you got North Village, they're only half built out right now. Sleepy Hollow, they're talking another one, Davis Street, the 1 million square foot, 800,000 for the other one, so.
So you're talking about the capacity on the existing permit, so increase the
Correct.
permit, because we have the ability to handle.
We have capacity in our sources to handle plenty more. I mean, we typically run, 6, 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you're not even a third of our pumping period to run. So even if we doubled our permit, you'd still only be, half a day, a little over. So I think you're still in decent shape there.
Yeah, what was the average in the water with pumping? Daily average?
I want to say it's roughly a little over 200, but 187,000 for,
Yeah, so,
but that's January.
yeah, that's,
On average, if you take the whole year on average, it's about 200,000 a day.
right. Been permitted for what, a little over a million, right, 1.6?
No, for,
No, we can
I mean,
draw over,
no,
man.
I withdraw, we have the ability to withdraw one.
well, what our pumping test showed and what each well was approved a pumping rate at, we're at like 900 and something thousand, so just about a million. So we're 3 times what we use,
Right.
But what are we allowed to pull out?
Right now, I'd have to check on what year we were in. It's right around 300,000.
No, what?
300,000?
Yeah, it was lower, it was 400 before, was it?
Yeah.
20.
It was a lot higher, and then they cut it on us.
But we can get that increased without too much of a problem if we have to.
It's a permitting process that, typically that permitting process takes 2 years. I know when they gave us the permit and we were fighting it and everything else, but then the selectmen signed it, but when we were going through that fight with them, they had said that they would, if we needed to increase it, they would fast track the permitting process, which would probably still take a year, but that's considered fast tracking, but then I asked her on some of the PFAS things when I was on a conference call with the director. They said that they've approved permits in weeks for the PFAS treatment, which is unheard of. It's usually, like I said, a
Now that-
couple-year process.
That 1 million square foot building, that's going to be mainly for sprinkler though, right? I mean, it's
I don't
not,
know, it depends. There was different scenarios. They said between 500 and 1,500 employees. So that's a lot more than just sprinklers. That's a lot of flow.
yeah, there's a lot of flow for water, yeah. Would it be, I don't know, what would that take for, per gallon, how many gallons that would take per day?
That could be 95,000 gallons a day.
95? So we'd be getting really close then.
Yeah, we'd be getting close to our permit level. But
And that's
that
only
was
that
at the high
building,
end. I don't know if that,
that would be nothing else.
what's that?
That would be no other development. That would be,
Yeah, it's not counting other development.
Yeah.
So we know that's coming.
That's what I mean. It's all, we're getting close to what our limits are, and
yeah.
so,
Now, what happens if we do run over our limits?
then we got to start the permitting process.
Yeah, but I mean, say we run over before we start the permitting process. Are we gonna,
They'll send us a letter and say, you need to start the permitting process.
yeah, all right, then we just started, but I mean, we could still draw that water.
We probably should be proactive on that.
Yeah, move.
We foresee that coming, so we probably should just get that and explain that this is coming down the line.
Well, let's get
Yeah.
the house in.
I was gonna say, but until I hear what project it is,
Yeah, you don't really know.
I don't want to start that process, so.
Yeah.
Once they tell me it's this project, and, you know, like I said, they said between 500, one project with 500 employees, one project was 1,500 employees, and I didn't even hear what the third one was. So until I hear which one it is, if it's the 1,500, then I say, yeah, we start to get the
We
ball.
start it
rolling.
right away.
But if it's the 500, then I would wait it out a little bit. And, you know, we'll see where we stand. Because we're, you know, it's a 20-year permit, we're already 10 years, 10, 11 years into it. So, you know, it's a couple years to get some of these projects built. You know, we'll be getting close to our permit renewal anyway. So when, and, you know, we might be able to drag it out enough to get to the permit renewal board part and then try to request an increase at that point. All right, so we discussed the Blackstone Valley Logistics, we discussed the 1 million square foot, and then another project that was being discussed was on Davis Street. So that's over by Granutech, putting in a little cul-de-sac type road, like 800 feet long. There would be 4 lots that they could build on, and the sand and gravel process in the back. I know eventually there was discussion on looping that all the way down through, kind of make that a whole industrial park, coming back out on Davis Street, but so far, none of the discussion has involved adding water and sewer. So they did discuss putting in wells for those existing proposed lots.
Yeah,
Those buildings probably only have 1 or 2 bathrooms.
That's what I'm guessing,
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're probably, you know, 4,000 square foot steel buildings or something that are, you know, shop style things or something like that. But
I understand the dynamics of that whole project, how one's going to move forward, but maybe just talk with Bob and Eric about it and see what his thoughts are on, just in that short road, if we could put, I mean, because eventually that's the main road that's going into,
yeah,
for the rest of the economic development that's up there,
I'll talk to Matt tomorrow because we're,
just see what the thought process is of putting to get the water line in the road.
Yeah,
In the roadway and the
'cause,
sewer, if it's possible.
because we formed a kind of a committee or something that,
Tech review.
yeah, to look at these projects ahead of time to, you know, see if there's any big red flags or
Yeah.
something that's going to hold something up. So we met yesterday, and we're supposed to, or Matt's supposed to give the planning board kind of a summary of our meeting, so I'll try to talk to him tomorrow.
I mean, it may simply be that it's not enough if it's only a short portion, and they may, at the time when they wanted to fully develop that back section up there, then the water line and sewer line comes up, then they just run right through the project right from the beginning, so I'm not sure.
It may
I
be
understand
worth
what the
running
immediate
water.
need is to get that, why
But there was discussion that they didn't want to, like at the end of the cul-de-sac where they put the little circle, and if they had to put asphalt in to do a driveway, they're like, well, we don't want to put asphalt in to do a driveway that you're going to have to, you know, do a section, and that's where they were proposing the road, because they just said they kind of put a placeholder in place for the road, which it could go here, or move down to here, or move down to here, depending on where a building went. So they didn't want to make them pave that, and they were talking that there should probably be, you know, file for a variance, or, you know, just so they don't have to do what the bylaw requires to add so much pavement.
Oh, actually, yeah.
So you don't want to go put in all this pavement just to rip it up and redo it. So it sounded like whenever they did that road section, they don't want to have to rip that up again. So I think you got a valid point that it might be worth putting at least the water line in. And then, you know, we'd have to discuss how they would want to do sewer at some point if
That all goes downhill. So they'd have to have a pump station anyways at the,
well, I think for those four lots and, you know, probably the one that doesn't need it, you could probably gravity out. There's plenty of elevation difference there. But as you get further into the development, I'm not quite sure, I'd have to look at that a little better, but there was kind of a hill on that side, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Where was that road, coming out on the Davis Street? Was it
Right
to the
next.
left of Granny Tech or to the right?
To the right.
The right?
It's Uxbridge side
Yeah.
of Granny Tech. So, that's heading towards the downhill. And it's deceiving. If you ever drive up there, and you try to figure out where it starts going downhill, you're like, all right, I think it's like right here when you get to Monroe Street. But then if you turn around and drive back the other way, it's like, all right, nope, it's over here where,
Yeah.
it's just deceiving on how it looks. It's like I want to go out there with a golf ball and see which way it rolls, but,
Yeah, obviously, I mean, if it's advised to get that in now, then it's probably a good idea, but if it's, we don't want to screw up the dynamics of what has to get done to make everything
Right.
else for the big picture over on
How long a road is it gonna be?
the current proposed is like 800 feet.
800 feet? Don't seem like it'd be worth putting water and sewer in there for 800 feet.
That's, I mean, I don't know what the grand scheme's gonna be on that.
Right. But
But if they're,
you got to look at the cost, Bob, of, is it worth spending the money to put pipe in the ground that's going to sit there? Or is it worth digging up a road and redoing it all again?
To me, it seems like
So
it
it's-
might be worth just digging up the road and doing it over again, if worse come to worse. Could be wrong, I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
But again, you're trying to plan for future expansion that,
yeah,
might
You don't
never
know.
happen.
right.
So you could be like Charlton and put in the pipe and it sat there for, I want to say it was like 25 years that they let it sit there.
That's no good, right?
Well, when they finally went to activate it, they redid the roads and stuff in between, and they drove like 7 guardrails through the water main. So when they activated the water main, all of a sudden water comes gushing up out, and they didn't know it because the water mains weren't activated.
Yeah.
But they found out that when they moved the guardrails, they punched right through the water main.
Oh, boy.
So,
Yeah, just feel it out. I mean, we'll work with that. Whatever's gonna be done, we'll work with them on.
Yeah.
We want to make sure things move forward.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know if if they, the roadway, I think is 60 feet requirement, right?
Yeah.
So you got a 60-foot requirement, but there's only 26 foot of asphalt. So if you just set it up and say, all right, the plan would be, the water goes on this side of the road, the sewer goes on this side of the road,
Well, you don't dig up the road.
then you don't have to dig up the road, and it just goes down where sidewalk or whatever would be.
I guess it would be what the long-term plan, because obviously you don't want to do something like that, put in the pipes and sit there forever and ever.
Right.
But if there's a plan possibly that, in 5 years or sooner,
Yeah.
then I guess we talked to Matt about it.
What'd you say, a 26-foot roadway going down, and they have what, 40?
It's a 60-foot
Right away.
right away.
Right away.
But then they're only paving 26 feet. But I think the bylaw says sidewalk on both sides, but I think they're going to
Ask for a waiver on that.
ask for a waiver and go with one.
Typically,
It's a lot cheaper to rip up a sidewalk than it is a road, and eventually run the water and sewer down if you ever have to.
But again, you got to look at it, because they also got the crazy requirements that you need so much space between with planting trees that just bust up your sidewalk that you're putting in anyway.
Then you get I suppose the laterals aren't as much to do with.
I don't see where they come up with an idea of planting trees. I mean, you go to any one of these developments, it's all woods, and they got a stupid tree here and there by the sidewalk.
Well,
And it's all-
sidewalk trees
All
just
woods.
make no sense to me. They
No, it doesn't make
bust-
any.
As they grow, the
sense.
roots bust up your sidewalks and everything starts.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Ernie always said
didn't-
security.
John's got to go down there and go around all the freaking trees while he's plowing sidewalks.
I mean, you look at the road going into, up there on North Street. It's all woods,
Yeah.
and it's cleared back maybe 20 feet, and it's all woods, and they got a stupid tree here and there. It just does not make sense.
That's all right. Trees don't fall under our purview, so.
Yeah.
So that's where we stand on the economic development stuff that I know of that's going on.
Yeah, my suggestion just be, you just have to feel it out.
I'll talk to Matt on
Talk to
that.
Matt and see what
I'll
he,
just mention it so he can at least,
if it's worth it, do it. If it's not, just, let you know, just kind of. That's my take on it. But I know that has to happen to get the rest of the balls moving, so
Yeah.
we don't want to throw any curves in for that.
Yep. All right.
I think we pretty much covered everything.
For economic development,
Yeah.
but you got budget discussions on there, so.
Oh, the budget, oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
So where do you want to go with a budget discussion?
Just wondering when we're gonna start working on it, or?
Theoretically, we should have already started. Last year, I think we tried to start in January, and COVID screwed that all up, but
When is the meeting, town meeting?
first week of May. What is it, typically the first Monday or something?
Yeah. Monday or Tuesday.
I think it's, I thought it was typically
It was
Monday.
in that, he was in that email. It was an email. No,
Yeah, so third or fourth. For some reason, I have it in my mind that it's a Monday, but, because I think town meeting always messes up, because my wife has her meetings on Monday nights.
Yeah, but weren't they gonna do it? I think they were still doing it outside, weren't they?
I have no idea.
So we probably should we start scheduling meetings for, let's see, let's make sure we're gonna cover time here.
I mean, I would say we should, well, I don't know, scheduling these meetings is all over the place now, too.
We get,
I would say I don't want to wait another month,
no,
No,
so we need to have a budget meeting
yeah,
Yeah.
say 2 weeks.
sooner rather than later,
It would be,
the week of March 8th.
yeah,
Yeah, and then that just depends on the availability of the room.
yeah, so
Right.
try to schedule in the week of March, that week.
have you started putting stuff together on it?
No. No, but I can do that quick.
The, is there anything, have you talked with John, is there any roads that it's gonna be paving that we need to look at, for part of that budget?
I mean, he's going to do cemetery, I know that. I've had a few conversations with him, and we've kind of been all over the place.
Just so we know, make sure you communicate in case there's any numbers we're gonna plug into the budget for any kind of improvements.
I mean, I think we got to start looking at some of the bigger items, which, basically from Franklin Street all the way up Main Street needs to be done. It's just a matter of if we try to pick sections or just try to do the whole thing at once.
From Franklin to Main Street.
So on Main Street, from Franklin Street, so the 16-inch main you guys replaced years ago.
Oh, okay, going the other way, I'm like, I thought that was already done, yeah, 16.
Yeah, so 16 ends at Franklin Street, there's a 12-inch
Go the other-
12-inch stub, so you need to go 12-inch from Franklin, basically all the way to Camp Meeting. So that whole section needs to be replaced. I mean, I think since I've been here, there's been 12 to 15 breaks on that line.
Isn't that AC pipe after camp meeting?
Nope, after Camp Meeting, they replaced it all, it's all new ductile.
Yeah,
So I don't know why they started at Camp Meeting and didn't do the whole
Yeah.
road. I would have came back to Webster Street.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do that section, but, because we had 2 breaks just in that section.
Yeah.
One,
that's AC or no?
no, that's cast.
Oh, cast.
Yeah, but it used to be AC going up past camp meeting.
Yeah.
That got changed.
I remember that did get changed. I remember.
Yeah, so that all got changed, that's all ductile now. From Camp Meeting all the way down to that last one,
Yeah.
it's all newer ductile, so.
You're talking about going from Franklin Street all the way up Main
To Camp
past
Meeting.
fire
All
station.
the way up to Camp Meeting needs to be done. And then from Main Street up Church Street to get to where the tank is, at some point, that should get done. We've had 2 breaks up on Church Street. And then,
We had quite a few breaks just down by the pipeline
yeah,
in the last few years.
so I mean, we had, like on Main Street itself, we've had like 12 to 15 breaks.
Wow.
And that, my concern with that one is it's our main transmission line for half the town. Everything goes from there up to Church Street, and that covers that whole half of town, and that's the only pipe that we can get water from.
How old is that,
there
the
to there.
original pipe? How old is that pipe?
50s?
Yeah, that's when that tank was put in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, early 50s.
Early 50s that was done?
That's when Booster was put in and the Church Street tank was put in at the same time.
And what's the typical time, age on pipes?
It all varies on the conditions and, you know, water quality and everything else. I mean, we've got some pipes that were, 1909 that are still in the ground.
That's what I was wondering if that was part of the,
But, like I said, this is a main transmission line. It sees flow all day, every day, back and forth, and, you get higher usages there. It's heavy road traffic, so you get a lot of vibration and everything, tractor-trailer trucks. And like I said, water's moving back and forth a lot, so you don't know which way the hammer's coming from. The booster station's there. But it also depends on the material, it's cast iron pipe, so it breaks easier. If it was ductile iron, I'd say it'd be good for 200 years, but, cast iron, it's hit and miss.
That's all cast iron up there, isn't it?
Yeah.
so has there been any improvements on the PVC
PVC?
on pipe?
Yeah, not that I've heard of. The C900 was the last. Some people rave about it, but then they're also saying that the C900 might have effects on your PFAS sampling, but,
I was actually thinking that earlier, you said that, I'm thinking, no, but you talk about Teflon, and
Yeah.
a lot of that piping has Teflon and stuff in it,
yeah.
the flexibility and, I'm like, I was thinking that process, I'm like, oh, maybe we don't want to head down that road for the PFAS.
And then the other problem with plastic pipe, any of the plastic pipes, VOCs can penetrate through. So if you have gasoline spills or oil spills, that can get through and get into the water system where it can't get through a ductile iron pipe. So,
I just see, I see it all over, people doing water projects.
I know.
It's all.
a lot of people are using it, I still stay away from it, but I don't know,
Everywhere, but even in New Hampshire, I see it. Like they do,
Yeah.
they get it all ready and then they plop it into the,
yeah, it's all butt fused, they
yeah.
kind of plastic weld it. And they can go along and have half of it hanging up out of the trench and then just kind of
Yeah.
roll it in as they go.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking, like, they get some frost up there.
All set. We'll stick with the old iron.
So I say you can't, ductile iron's tried and true, but
Yeah, I know, it's been proven, that's,
Well, I still think of the scenario like the plumbers, like when we used to use all cast,
yeah.
yeah,
and then they went to the PVC.
Plastic,
It's a
yeah.
much better product. I mean, as far as
It lasts longer,
workability,
it's-
it lasts, it doesn't, it's
easier to work
easy to
with.
work with, the
Yeah.
cost is a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Everything about it's a lot cheaper and
Right.
performs, as it should.
But you're not drinking it,
That's.
And surge.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to,
although they got a lot of plastic, everything's going plastic water piping too now, so.
yeah.
everybody's redoing houses in PEX now, so.
It's all PEX, and a lot of piping.
And you can use it, it's approved for use through AWWA, and it would have to get approved through this board as our specs to allow it. Right now, we only allow class 52 ductile, so.
Yeah. I mean, what is the cost? What's the cost associated with that versus the,
The difference is it's kind of a specialized thing, so it's not something that we would do, because none of us butt fuse C900 pipe.
yeah,
no one's got experience here doing it.
I'd have to have somebody hire, well, we'd probably hire
You're
somebody.
gonna hire someone to do it anyway,
But
but,
anyway, do that project out like that.
yeah.
Yeah, too
But
big
if
a
we had, say you
project.
if you had a break on a,
It's the same scenario, you still, it's a repair clamp that you would put in, yeah.
It's it'd be a lot easier to work with, a lot easier to do.
Lighter, easier to handle, yeah.
But,
I don't know, I still got my concerns about it,
yeah,
I've pushed against it in other communities, so
yeah.
I have a hard time, and it's,
I'm like you, it hasn't been around long enough to,
and if you don't have high pressure,
Yeah.
lower pressure areas, Eagles View or anything, if you use that, trying to find a leak is almost impossible. Just because the plastic, when it leaks, it doesn't make the noise that iron does. So it's harder to track down a leak. I know we had that issue a lot of places, and, trying to correlate things, and you don't have the iron to clamp on to find things, it's hard to locate, so you gotta put tracer wires in to try to put something in to locate it, but
Yeah.
pros and cons to both.
Sometimes change is hard, but if it's a good change, then
Yeah.
you just gotta, you gotta adapt to it, but if it's not, then obviously,
now, is there funding for that project? Or do we have to
For which project?
run that
Main
new
Street?
one, I mean, that's not gonna be a cheap job.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a matter of watching for grants when they're available, but the problem with a lot of that is you have to be shovel ready when they come out. So, yeah, we just got to look at time frame as to, when you guys think you want to move forward. If it's within the next 5 years or so, then, we get the engineering part of it done, get that out of the way, and that way if a grant comes up, but you also, typically these grants are
When's the last time we had a break up there?
last year.
Last year. We had quite a few breaks last year then, right? Or was it over the last several years?
That was over several years.
let's try to get some revenue first, maybe focus on the
That's
next
what I'm hoping
grants
to-
to get that, and then,
Hoping some of these other projects go in, but like I said, I'm not looking at trying to do this year,
yeah,
just because we got too much going on, and if either of those projects move forward and we got to do those, that's a lot of project right there for a small department to be working on, so. Not that we'd be doing the work, but it's still a lot of
oversee.
coordination, oversight, and making sure the old lines are active, or temporary lines are active, and people still have water, and obviously we'll get 100 different complaints, because people opening hydrants or whatever while they're doing it, stirring everything up, but, so, yeah, I think, Main Street, that's one of the priorities I would say that we need to focus on coming up. And then I've got to do a little more exploration, but Depot Street and Railroad Ave, I'm not sure what's in Railroad, I'm not sure if it's ductile or cast. But Depot Street, I mean, anytime anybody, North Village opens a hydrant, or they do something down the mill, or anywhere down here, I mean, even when the Birdhouse, when his fire, they never called us to let us know that they were working on their fire suppression system, or the guy was out there testing or something. All of a sudden, we got calls all up Depot Street that, dirty water. So it's every time something happens, Depot Street is where we get the calls. So, it just tells me that the old cast iron pipe in Depot is tuberculated, and probably should be looking at that one. Again, that's kind of one of your main.
Yeah, that pipe wasn't too
transmission
good a
lines.
shape when they cut in for that sprinkler, for the birdhouse.
It wasn't in good shape, or it was? It was in good shape, or it wasn't?
It wasn't. There was a lot of rust in that. I
Was there
thought.
on that one? I don't remember on that one.
So does it work better when you have a lot of flow or less flow?
A lot of flow.
If you have a lot of flow, then the pipe stays nice.
If you have a lot of flow all the time, so 3 to 5 CFM is what you look at. You want to get, if you've got 3 to 5 CFM, it doesn't let things settle out. So if you keep your flows up above that, stuff never settles out. So what happens is, you're flowing like Depot Street obviously has a slow flow going through it under typical use, because most of it probably comes down Franklin Street.
Yeah.
Because that's a newer 12-inch ductile iron line with a 16-inch main on Main Street. But when someone opens something up fast, a lot of the flow must come down Depot. So when it comes down Depot, it stirs everything up. So you're getting above that 3 to 5 CFM, which then pulls everything up out of that whatever settled in the pipe is getting stirred up.
Plus, the pressure must have a little something to do with it, too. The faster it's going through.
Well, the pressure doesn't
No.
affect it, it's the
No, it
velocity.
doesn't, it's the volume, yeah.
You saw the
Volume.
pictures from Cemetery. That pipe on Cemetery. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It was half, the bottom half was,
I didn't see it.
no.
Half the pipe was filled?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of built-up iron in that pipe.
Yeah.
So that should help out in that area anyway, because we looped that section and it's
Yeah.
new 8-inch ductile cement line, so you won't have that buildup in the pipe anymore.
Was that in the lower section or the upper section? Because the up, was it like, when you were cutting into the up section, it looked like it was decent up top towards Gilboa Street.
The outside of the pipe looks good. I mean, the pipe itself looks good all the way around, inside
Yeah.
out, thickness, everything.
It's just a
But
buildup
the
inside.
circulation inside gets, built up heavy with iron.
Was it built up top too?
Yeah.
Oh, was it? For some reason, I thought that pipe looked good, I thought. But I was just, when you guys were cutting into it, it looked like, it's like, oh, it looks pretty good. That's the only part of the whole project I even seen.
Yeah.
I did go down there.
It was nice digging up top. That was like beautiful sand. Then we got a little further and it turned to crap. I don't even know how they got those rocks back on top of the water main after.
All the big rocks.
They were huge. Yeah. They were
Yeah.
bigger than this table.
One on Cemetery?
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, they're frickin' boulders.
you would
Probably a half
assume,
a
all right,
yard.
we know we're replacing in the same trench, we're pulling the pipe out and putting it in.
Yeah.
Well, they dug this up before, it should be good. We started off good, and then all of a sudden, Ernie had a hard time getting out with his machine, some of them.
Yeah.
We
They
cut
were
the
huge.
trench,
They were huge.
what do we do, a 4-foot trench, and it busted the asphalt all over the place trying to get these rocks out. They were huge.
Why would they put huge rocks like that over the pipe?
That's what I said, I don't know, maybe they were doing with the horse and buggy back then, and
Low on fill?
they're just like, yeah, we're not trying to move this anywhere, just get it out of the way and we'll roll it back in when we're done.
That's what they had to do. I mean, it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it.
Somebody got a good laugh somewhere.
Yeah, wait till they dig this up.
So they were like Dave, just, then we come driving by that when they were replacing, oh, I did that. Dave laughing at me up on North Street when that happened.
I know. Yeah, that pulled out.
Huh, I was wondering when that was gonna happen, I did that. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, that little chuckle too.
All right, so week of March 8th,
What do you want, March 8th?
Week of, whenever we can have a meeting for budget meeting, sometime during that week.
yep. So we'll see if Lee can get something scheduled for that. All right, anything else?
I don't have anything else.
You guys got nothing?
Do we need to talk about rates at that budget meeting?
We gotta get the budget approved first, and then, well, whatever we come up with for a budget, then that'll bring us into the rate discussion.
Did you ever talk to Doug? Because he never got back to me.
No. I know I had talked to you about it and looked at the numbers, and we're good for the remainder of this budget season, so we figured we'll hold off until we do the next budget, upcoming budget.
All right.
I got one thing to bring up. I don't know if you guys have ever got any complaints about the cost of the water bills. Instead of every 6 months, do it every every 4 months or every
You'd go
quarter?
to quarterly if anything.
I would like to do it quarterly.
I would too, but
You like to do them
I
quarterly?
would like to do it quarterly. And I know we've talked about it a dozen times over the years, but I think we really should.
but I think the final determination on that was is the radio read would be the motivator.
If we had the radios in, yeah, and I mean, we could put radios in quick, it's just a matter of money for the radios, but,
It was a matter of cost, right? I think the way that we didn't do it before,
well, that was the original discussion was, it's $800 a billing, cycle to get it out there. It's a couple $1,000s by the time we all said
I
and
thought we were
done.
going to do, the last time I thought we discussed it was, we were going to do estimated and actual, so we didn't have to do the actual. We
Yeah,
still
but-
do the same number of reads, but it would be an estimated in between, pick up the difference on it.
I thought there was something saying that we could.
I think it was our cost of the mailing,
I was gonna say, the cost that he was talking about was
of mailing the
the
bill.
mailing cost.
Processing.
To, processing, generating the bills, between the stupid special paper we gotta use and the toner cartridge and postage and everything, it's $800 to $1,000 to go through all that, so it's an additional like $2,000 a year that would go
We'd have to
into.
factor in that into the
Yeah.
into the whole process.
I don't know, when I was down in Florida, I don't know how they do it, but they get bills every month.
Yeah, they got the towers that just
They
hit
have a-
three bills.
They have
Is that what it is?
They have fixed base network, and we had discussed that.
Because no matter what part of different areas I was, people were saying every 2 weeks, once a month they get a bill.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good in a way too, if you got a bad leak in your house or something and don't know it.
Yeah, but
Well, the
a big system that you can afford to do that. for.
Right, yeah, well, it's
I
small.
think it was the software costs and maintenance costs.
The maintenance costs on the software, when we had them come in, and they didn't tell me till our meeting, was $60,000 a year, just to maintain the software.
So, well, there's no way we're gonna spend $60,000
No.
just on
No.
it.
And that's just an annual cost on that. It was, $100,000 to put it in, and, all the additional costs to get us to that point. It's a great plan, because, you talk about a water leak, and with that plan, Lee would come in and turn on a computer, and it would come up with 3 alarms and say, this one, this one, this one
Right,
has a potential water leak, and he'd find it within 24 hours.
but we're not big enough, it's
It's that.
not worth the cost.
It's that annual maintenance cost. And, I told that to the 3 other meter companies that I met with, and, every one of them came back and they said, oh, we don't have that, it's only like 10,000 a year for ours. So I'm like, all right, we'll put together a plan, but it's $10,000 a year for the software maintenance, and then there's an annual per meter charge, and when you run all the numbers, it comes out to $60,000 a year. I'm like, you're at the same thing. I don't care if you're calling an apple, an orange, or a
Right.
peach,
Comes out the
you're still
same thing at the end.
$60,000. They
Right.
just rearranged how they charge you for it. So regardless of how you did it, it was $60,000 a year.
Yeah, I like the idea of just moving forward with the quarterly and then just do like, obviously, this one has to be actually, no, it'd be,
But the problem with the quarterly, if he's talking about going monthly because you can find a water leak,
yeah, monthly, you can't,
Well, not monthly,
we did,
but quarterly, you're not going to find a leak either if we're still only
No.
reading twice a year.
yeah, that isn't gonna curb that problem, but it'll help.
That's a problem that's rare, but
Yeah, but what's the, like somebody's got to analyze to figure out what the formula is for the estimates,
Well, I think that they have to do a little work first on that to get that figured out, what the historical estimates
Well,
are.
it's already in the software we have.
Is it?
You can hit a button and it'll estimate.
Oh, okay.
Well, because they're doing it with the taxes, everybody's tax bill is different,
Yeah.
so they're already doing it, so. I just didn't know if you could do it on that side of Munis.
I mean, you could, we had discussed a bunch of these different options. I mean, you could do it kind of like the tax bill where you can send, they do 3 in one and then one as a final, right?
No, it's 2 estimates, and then the last 2 are actual. Well, the last 2 are estimates, and the first 2, I think, are actuals. something like that.
Because like in my town, I get my first 3-quarter bills in one bill, and then the final one's the actual. Like, they give you a ballpark on what your taxes are, so they split up the first 3, and then the last one is what makes up the difference on the tax rate or whatever.
My
That
estimate,
would sound like that, right?
No, it's
We
the
have
second,
two-
the third one is the actual.
The first two are,
First two are estimate.
first two are estimated.
Are estimated,
Four are
yeah.
the actual.
Third
But do
one.
they mail out quarterly bills?
No, they come together. You get your first two together,
just
and
take
then the third and fourth together, and just rip off the coupon.
First
So,
two, and then the second.
but that's what I mean, you could send out both bills in one thing, and this one's due at this time, and this one's due at that time,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, so you'd eliminate one mailing.
no, that's $1,000.
Yeah.
I like that idea because it helps, because, I mean, it is getting expensive for some of the bills.
Yeah,
But,
well, my bill's like $5,000, I'm sure yours is in the same area.
Yeah.
But you just have to find out if you can do that on that utility side of units. I mean, obviously, you can do it on the tax side of units, but,
if you do it on the tax side, you should be able to do it on the utility side.
you would think that program anyway.
You would think a lot of things on that program that don't do what it should do. Can't believe as many people in, as many towns in the United States use it as they do.
Yeah, I was down there today, Lee was running out, trying to make sure everything was gonna go fine on the billing.
Yeah, we're almost there. We look like we're in better shape than last year, so.
Is this something we would want to discuss tonight, or do you want to think about it and do it later, or come up with a tentative plan?
Well, it's not, if we're all sort of on board with it now, I think it would be up to Bob and Lee to do the homework to find out if it's even possible.
Figure out how we're going to do it?
So maybe get through this billing and then find out from Eunice if it's possible. And then you gotta find out,
You gotta do the fiscal year, so you gotta do, it's gotta.
Yeah, we would probably start it July 1st.
It has to be done fiscal year, so like in July.
Yeah.
yeah,
So it'd have to be, you have to get all the revenue for it starting July 1, so it'll be the first billing cycle.
Right.
yeah.
So it'll be, and they're always back, so it would be July, when it would be.
July would be a good, yeah.
What do we have to do between now and July then to get this thing going? It's going to cost us one extra billing, one
But you
extra,
gotta find out if the software can even do it.
oh,
I mean, it should be able to in theory, but,
I mean, worst case scenario is.
well, it'd be similar to the
we just-
tax bill.
We just do the extra mailing and you mail it quarterly. So we pay for 2 more mailings, but, because I mean, I think Lee could go in no problem, just estimate all, and everybody would get an estimated bill.
Well, 2 extra mailings would be another $2,000 a year. If we did the same and put 2 billings in one envelope, one time, then again, somebody's going to forget it.
Yeah.
yeah, but they're doing it now with the tax bill.
Yeah, they're doing it with the tax bill, yeah.
You know, Unless
Yeah,
they've
but-
got an escrow, but,
I'll say,
Yeah.
but I would bet that more than half the people have their tax bills in their escrow and they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I bet you 75% of the people.
Yeah.
I would bet.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't.
So,
so we'd have to do 4 billings then, I think.
I think you leave it open for a lot of issues if you did it like the tax bill. You know, you get a lot of people complaining that, oh, I forgot about that, you sent it to me 6 months ago, you know?
Well, the other thing too, in tax bill is they only do demands once a year, which is the last
Last
one.
one.
They don't do the demands on every quarter. The interest.
The interest goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'd have to figure that out.
No, people don't, well, like you say, half the people probably have it taken out.
I bet you more than half.
Yeah.
So if we sent it out every quarter, probably be the best thing to do. So it costs us like $2,000 a year. Ain't gonna help us out in getting the money in sooner anyways.
And that's why, I mean,
Well, it helps because it is not, you're not at the end of the year trying to chase all the money down because it's.
yeah, we're not chasing as much.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be a little aggressive with, you know, with the demands and the shut-off notices and everything else at the end of the year to make sure we're gonna make that budget.
But that should go down substantially if we're doing quarterly billing, because now the number's not.
Oh, I
high.
bet you it wouldn't.
Huh?
I bet you it wouldn't.
No?
Nope, they're the same.
The ones that'll pay will
It's the
pay.
same ones every time.
Yeah.
That's what I said. If you did demands on every one of them and went to monthly billing, I'd have six times more revenue on demands.
Well, if we go every quarter, the town's every quarter, that's 8 quarters, that's 8 months out of the 12. And we can stagger it so it's not coming the same month as the tax bill. Because that's just as bad if it comes the same month as the tax bills, for me anyways, and
Yeah.
you and probably everybody else.
It's excise bills you probably worry about.
Yeah,
Probably
excise.
excise tax bills you worry about.
Oh, yeah. I just mailed them out, it was that thick.
Yeah.
I could have slipped in my 3, you wouldn't have even
Yeah, I
known.
wouldn't known the difference. Scott tried to slip his and he's got one.
I think it's a good idea. I'd like to see us go there.
Yeah, do the,
Yeah.
you can do the homework, you know.
I've had a couple people ask me that,
Oh,
the
I've
same
had a-
thing, and
I've had a few, yeah.
Yeah.
But get through this billing and then talk to Munis and see what's involved.
10, 15 years ago, the water bills weren't quite that high, now they're,
No, no. And if it's looking like we're gonna have to do another bump, you know.
you want to take a vote on it, that we do that, and, or do we wait?
Well, I think
Think
a
it'd be-
consensus is enough. We'll get the ball rolling on my end to get information and,
Yeah. We had to, I think like Bob said, consensus to move forward on that, and then, we'll make an emotion on this. How do you make a motion on, we don't know.
Yeah, 'cause we don't even know if we can do it. if the
Yeah,
software's-
all right.
Just consensus to try to move forward and get that done.
Okay.
so I will look into that more.
Anything else?
So you'll let us know if it can be done and how to do it, okay?
So you're still looking at an estimated and, so 2 regular, 2 estimated.
That way there, it's not, there's no burden on the workload,
All
any
right.
additional.
We'd still do the water readings once a month, once every 6 months, instead of this, or are you gonna just try to figure everything out?
Well, I'll look at a couple scenarios, because if we're going to do a billing, we've got, I don't know, a little over 100 radios out there now. And if we're going to bill, whether we can go get the radios in an hour. So I can get all those radios read in an hour. So those would be, we could do 4 actual bills on anyone that has a radio.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if we look at it and say, so I guess it's not as simple as just saying 1 estimated, 1 regular. I would say it might almost be worth looking at any large customers, just the ones that we have to go in and read anyway, just hit the large ones. And then, any of the ones that are single-family residential, they're pretty consistent with usage. But any of the larger customers, the mill or Haywood Landing or the schools, do actual bills on those. Just because if, like the school or something, if they have a leak, to catch that quarterly, it might be
Savings.
a big savings for a school, and being another municipal entity, you guys are going to pay for it through your taxes if you, so, something like that, I'd probably say, hit the radios and any large meters. Maybe even work towards changing any of the large meters to radios. I think one of the schools already has a radio, so.
Yeah.
If we get those set up that way, we can, anything with a radio, we can read.
How did the radios work with this building?
Good.
Did it?
Yeah, I think there was,
Is everything radio read now?
no.
No, it's not. We still gotta go read meters.
Yeah, like I said, we got a little over 100 radios out there right now.
That's it. 100? And we got, what, 1,100 people?
12, almost 1,300 now.
Yeah.
So,
So what's it gonna cost?
Plugging in that gun, right? Is that how that worked?
do what?
That was just plugging in that gun, right? And it just dumped? Is that the way that was supposed to?
Yeah, you just drive around with the gun and
Drive around.
it
Yeah.
load, it takes all the
Yeah,
reads, so.
and then, but loading into the software, wasn't there a dump?
Yeah, you just, a docking station, you
Yeah.
plug it on there and it
And
takes it
dumped
down.
in?
And we only have 100 out of,
Out of
what, 13? What's it gonna cost to do the rest?
I want to say originally, I think I estimated it was like 250,000 for everything,
Woo.
so.
Yeah,
What are we doing now? Just a little at a time, or
Any new construction,
any new?
but to get all the old stuff,
doing new and changes, are we doing meter change?
yeah, if we do a change out, we're switching them, yeah.
So a meter change on new construction we're doing now. What would it do if we put it
About
like 100 or 200 a
180,000.
year?
Well, that's what the plan was anyway, was, we got to buy them for the new, to have them for the new construction, and then if we have issues with a meter or a reader, then we change it instead of, if we're going through the process of going out there to take things apart, we're going to put one on and be done with it.
Yeah,
I think that needs to be a topic of a budget discussion when this come into this year, that we could try to get a lump.
How many, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I need is you tell me how many you want us to get put in, and that's what
and it
we'll
was
just
like,
put in.
oh, when we originally started replacing meters, we figured on so many a year, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, I don't know what you figured on.
Well, I don't, didn't we,
Yeah, my interview, that was one of my questions, where do you stand on the meter replacement? You tell me that 90, oh yeah, we're like 90% done. And I'm like, okay, that's.
yeah, and we weren't.
Then I get here and I'm like, yeah, let me see the list of meters. I'm like,
Yeah, nowhere near
did he
it.
mean 90% to do?
Yeah.
Because that's about where you were at, about 10%. You took 10 years to get to there.
Yeah,
Well, don't forget, he thinks you've only been there a couple of years.
I know.
yeah.
We just built the plant last year, didn't we?
Time flies too.
I know,
do
it
that
does-
same
it's
thing. I'm like,
awful.
"God, it's only been a couple of years, and then you look up something like, holy, yeah, that was 5 years ago.
You guys will get the same way sooner or later.
I do it now, Bob.
I got that thing in the mail that said I was here for 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thing, it says, wow,
Yeah,
10 years.
But we did finally change, I think we've got
I got one 215, I was like,
maybe 3 Badgers left, and they're just because we can't get the line shut off to change them, but everything else has been switched over to Census. But
There's no more Badgers, right?
there's like 3.
Three Badger meters.
They're either a screwy meter horn, or we're just like, yeah, they built cabinets around it and everything else, and it's, we'll wait till they sell the house, or
yeah.
we'll get it changed out, but even though, when you started switching over to Census, there's some of those that are getting close to 20 years old now.
Really?
So we're going to get back into the cycle of starting to change those out, so. And that was one of the things that we think we might have identified today with the radio. We put a radio on one of the older census meters, and we think that was the problem with, it's not communicating with it right.
On the older census.
Yeah, so there was like 3 different type census. There was the brass ones with the
That's what I,
head, but then there was another brass one that had, it looked almost the same, but it had a little thing up top said ice.
Yeah,
And the one that had ice on it, we think, well, that does communicate with the radios, but we're thinking the older one that's not on ice, it's not communicating. So there may be that issue where all those older ones, so I would say at this point, when we change out the older meter, we'll put a radio on it.
I think my house has the ice one, and my apartment doesn't.
I would think your, yeah, I was gonna say yours should have an ice one, and
It
then
was 2009.
9.
Yeah, I moved in,
Yeah, because you were done just before I started.
yeah,
But, yeah, the apartments probably have the older style.
yeah.
I think when I bought the house for my mother, Dennis changed my water meter, so that would have been '05. I think that one was the old one, I don't think it's the Dyson.
Yeah, that's probably right around the time that they changed. It was probably 05, 06 is when they went to that ice register, so.
I'm just wondering, I don't know if mine's ever been changed. I'm assuming it must have been. I don't know.
Which one?
I'm on my own. The other ones have all been done.
Like I said, we don't have any badges left except for a couple that I know of that
I have to go down and look. I probably got a
can't get
badge.
the water shut off.
The only guy left with a badge at the bottom.
No, I would know if you had a badge left.
Well,
Yeah,
that's good.
so,
At least the ones from 2000, late 2000s.
yeah, late 2000s and up, we can,
Put the head on it, right? And that's
yep.
good. That's good.
Yeah, so I'll probably look into that, like I said, with the larger meters to see what we got to do. You know, some of those meters are probably getting pretty old anyway, so I know none of the larger meters have been replaced since I've been here, so.
The owners have to pay for those large meters, huh?
The other thing was.
But I am,
Why, on the meters we're putting in, why come we putting in 1 inch?
that's just what everybody asked for.
Oh,
Those-
I was thinking,
I think they should go 3/4.
yeah, on
And
the
if you-
rest, single family.
If you look at, and typically the billings are based on, you know, a 5/8 meter, a 3/4 meter, a 1 inch meter, and it's a different base fee for each of those. You know, we have the same base fee for anything up to 1 inch,
Yeah,
which is something that I think that you guys need to look at, is looking at your fee structure as to different sizes. And, you know, if you're charging the same, everybody, you know, we had that one customer who wanted to put a 2 inch in. I'm like, you don't need a 2 inch for a single-family house. And then until he realized how much it was going to cost him, then he changed his mind and went back to a 1 inch. But,
yeah.
you know, if you set your rates accordingly, because if you've got the same fee and it comes in and we have to pay to replace the meter whenever it gets replaced, you know, now we're paying for a 1 inch meter when you really only need a 5/8 or a 3/4. So the expense on our end goes up significantly.
Yeah, I think a single family should be a 5/8 or a 3/4.
And I can tell you, like in Dudley, there's probably 200 connections, and, I mean, 2,000, and they've got less than 100 meters that are bigger than 5/8.
And what?
That are-
5/8?
Yeah, so out of 2,000, 1,900 of them are 5/8 meters.
Oh, I see, yeah. That's all you really need, I don't.
Yeah, so,
Why are we doing 1 inch meters then?
because that's what everybody asked for.
They asked for 1 inch meters?
All of North Village, all of North Village, I mean, they put all their own water lines, everything in. That was all 1 inch. Everybody that does any new construction, everybody's going 1 inch for whatever reason. Like I said, if you set your structures up, and even your connection fees, base it on the size of the meter, and, you know, if you tell someone, hey, it's the same price for a 5/8, a 3/4, or a 1 inch,
Put the big one.
I want the 1 inch, yep. You know, so if you set up your connection fees to, then they look at it a little more, you know, even if it's,
I mean, it wouldn't affect any, I mean, because the flow, you're not going to use that much water in a single family house anyway. You know
Right.
what you're doing, so.
but
3/4.
I can't tell you what you're going to use in your single-family house, because now if you've got all these special fixtures or whatever, and it's not supplying enough water, I
I mean,
mean,
if somebody,
the customer needs to tell me what size they want. That's why I say, if you set your fee structures appropriately,
yeah, that's what you're saying.
and then they have their, whoever designs their house
Right.
would say, you need 1 inch to supply this. You know, you
You're gonna car
have
wash.
14 bathrooms in your house, and,
Yeah.
you know,
Jet tubs all the way around.
yeah.
Yeah, but even if you had that, you'd have to have 14 people flush them at once.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, look at all those new shower heads, 'cause they got, Krebs, they got, multiple shower heads in a
You know,
stand.
you should see my buddy. He's got the rain thing, and then he's got 4 shooting down and like 6 jets shooting from the
Yeah,
side.
and
The walls.
yet the plumbing code says you can only have 3 gallons a minute coming out of a shower. These people got 10 gallon a minute shower.
Yeah, consider each one a shower, yeah.
Right,
And his, e-
What do you do when you get in the shower? Just put your arms up and just start walking around?
yeah.
his even has lights that change to the temperature of the water.
Don't worry, there's nothing
Yeah, I know.
on Mountain Road.
I hate to say this, I went to do an inspection on a new house and I couldn't turn the shower valve on. It was all computerized. I had to get somebody over to show me how to.
It's all push, all computer.
It's all, yeah, it's a computer box on a wall.
Yeah.
Set the
You
temperature,
can
the
set the
pressures.
temperature, and it just goes to that temperature, yeah.
So you gotta be kidding me.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say, when you look at doing the rates this next round, we should look at that
Yeah.
structure for the fee for connecting. If you want a 3/4 inch line, it's X. If you want a 1 inch, it's X. It's Y.
Oh, so we only chat whether it's a 1/2 inch, 5/8, or 1 inch.
5/8, 3/4, or 1 inch, we're
It's all the
still
same.
charging the same fee. So everybody says they want a 1 inch. But if there was, 2,500 for 5/8 and it's 3,300 for 1 inch, they'd say, oh, I can save $800 and,
Need it or
You
not?
know,
Right.
95% of your houses, you only need a 5/8.
right.
Yeah, so that's discussion on
All right. So, yeah, that would save on the cost of meters. If we went to, 5/8 or 3/4 inch meters.
that. Okay.
And then the radios are the same regardless of what size the meter is, so.
We good?
Yep. So we'll work on that, work on the generator is an important thing too. We gotta get,
Yep,
Number one.
that's highest on my list.
if you gotta call the filler up every day, twice a day,
Or find another electrical company.
I'll find somebody else that can do it. And I think our cheapest route is to go with a new generator.
It may not be the
Well,
cheapest, but it
not
may be the
cheapest,
smartest.
but If we don't need one that's 10 times the size of what we got, it'll be cheaper, I would think. All right, anybody else got
Bob,
anything?
let us know if he can get us gas in town before we have to buy it.
I know. That would be
Gas
nice.
generator would be much nicer.
Oh, yeah.
Have him spec it out for one that he can put a conversion on.
Yeah, the conversion kit. The 3 fuel generators.
Yeah.
You seen those? You can run gasoline, propane, or natural gas.
I haven't seen one, but
I've seen them.
I'm not gonna hold my breath for gas and,
My father-in-law's got one. Can run on gasoline, propane, or natural gas.
nice.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:07.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.